can do this. You can ban chokeholds. You can, but beyond that, you have to teach people how to de-escalate circumstances. De-escalate. So instead of anybody coming at you, and the first thing you do is shoot to kill, you shoot them in the leg. There's ways.
What the? That's right, everybody. We're finally getting into this one. We are going to finally open up this myth and just end it. Well, probably not, because hey, let's be fair. I got like 6 subscribers, so hopefully you guys know what we're talking about, though. This is the pervasive myth of shooting somebody in the leg. It just, God, it is so frustrating to hear this myth. This thing where you're able to literally put concentrated fire into a small meat muscle that's moving at you, probably wielding something, you know, somebody who's clearly a threat. Alright, so without further ado, we are going to be tackling the shoot them in the leg myth and going over why this is just such an idiotic thing to say when you're trying to make the argument of, especially with law enforcement or private civilian, you know, defense. It doesn't work. Alright, so let's get into it. Now, before we get into it, let's thank our sponsors today, which happens to be my wife, because she balances the damn budget. But with with things being what they are, don't have any sponsors. If you would like to sponsor the channel, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about sponsorship. Unfortunately, I missed that Mike Bloomberg money when it was coming down. So, yeah. So how are we going to pull this off? Well, quite simply, we're going to have to put this to the test by actually shooting somebody. And no, I don't mean with a 9mm. I mean, I'm going to shoot them with a 50 caliber paintball pistol, alright? So, cool thing about this is it's pretty much 1-for-1 on the size. And the feel is similar, so it allows me to be able to actually train and shoot somebody with something that is not quite the same, but close enough. Here's the setup. What we're going to do is I'm going to measure out 20 feet. And I'm saying 20 feet because I think that's a pretty decent distance for me to be able to get on target. I've seen a lot of body cam footage where the officers involved are dealing with somebody who's much closer than 20 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet, whatever, and they have to be able to draw and get on target and fire. Now for me, I'm saying 20 feet because, again, I'm trying to give some people the benefit of the doubt and give them that best case scenario for their argument before I trash it. So we're going to set them up at 20 feet, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, you know, one stance, which is a low ready stance, so I'm already drawn, I'm already on target, I'm ready to fight. Pull up, shoot, take one shot. If I hit the aggressor, the assaulter, they're going to stop right then and there. We're going to see where I hit them and what kind of distance that they closed before they got to me. The second stance I'm going to take is from a draw. So I'm pulling actually from a holster on my waist to try and pull up and shoot that person at that 20 feet as they're trying to close that distance. Again, we'll stop. If I hit them, try to measure out how far away they were from me when I shot them, if I do even end up shooting them. Then the third thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the low ready, and I'm going to aim for center of mass. And we're going to try it again. We're going to shoot one shot, see if I can get on them way faster with a way more accurate shot on that center of mass. Alright guys, so we are going to do this in the most scientific way that we can, which is actually to put this to the test. So right now I'm going to be using this 50 caliber pistol here, alright, 50 cal paintball pistol. And I'm going to have somebody try to attack me with a rubber knife. They're standing at 20 feet from where I'm at. So he's going to try and close the distance. I'm going to try and take one shot, hit him in the leg. The first time we do this, I'm going to be going from a low ready stance. The second time, we're going to be going from a draw. This way you can see how difficult it is to actually hit an assaulter's leg as they're coming forward. This is about as close as we're going to be able to get without me actually shooting somebody. I don't think you want to get actually shot. No. So we'll do it with the paintball pistol. Alright. Ready? Ready? Alright, go. Go. Alright. When did it hit you?
Just skimmed.
It just skimmed. And you were about here, right?
Yeah, because there's a ball.
Alright, so yeah, right about here.
It just, I mean, you can see the flake. Barely skimming.
Alright. Let's do it again from the draw. See how close you get. Alright, Rob. Ready? Yep. Ready? Go. I missed. Alright, go. so he got to me on that one. So, let's set up one more. Ready? Ready? All right, go. All right, got him. Now, I shot him both times with this in the leg, but he was definitely within closing distance. And I don't doubt that the one shot is not enough, especially if you're using something like 380 or 9mm, and especially if you're using like full metal jacket, something that isn't going to mushroom out with those hollow points. This guy's on top of me. Shooting him in the leg is not a viable option.
And they're all spin shots.
Yep.
It's not.
Alright, we're going to try one more thing. This time, I'm going to try to go from the low ready and hit you dead in the chest. Ready? Ready? Yep. Alright, go. Alright, go. Right? In the chest. Stopped him much sooner, and I could have kept pulling the trigger. He would have been down. So, hit him right here. Dead center of mass. That's the way you gotta do this. This is why when people are training, they train to shoot center of mass. It's A, an easier target to hit, but B, if you're trying to stop somebody, if you're actually trying to stop someone from hurting you or somebody else, you've got to hit them right here, all right? Hitting them in the leg is not going to do much. You can miss, you're probably going to miss. You're probably going to end up in a situation where you hit them. If you do hit them, they're going to keep coming at you. So center of mass, pull that trigger until the thread is removed. Simple as that. So I think those test results kind of speak for themselves. It's amazing what happens and how quickly somebody can close that distance, and how dangerous it could be for the person who, you know, is the shooter, if that person closes the distance, and what can happen to them and the potential lethality and the outcome of that encounter. Now, we're going to be moving over to making an argument for why shooting somebody in the leg might actually be more lethal than shooting somebody in the torso. I know it's crazy, it's counterintuitive, right? However, there's a reason for it. That reason is your femoral artery, all right? You guys see this big red artery right there? This is your thigh, okay? On the inside of your thigh, there's this big artery, and that's called your femoral artery. And if that gets injured or wounded or ends up, you know, to the point where it's cut, you're going to have a lot of blood exiting the body pretty quickly. So that's one of those things where you could bleed out from that kind of injury. Now, I'm not a medical professional, however, this is the kind of injury that can be sustained from a gunshot wound to the thigh. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, the thigh is such a tiny target, you know, you could shoot him in the thigh, and it's such a tiny bullet, it's not going to hit that artery. Okay, hold on there, Chief. Here's the deal. That bullet is small, yes. But what happens when a bullet actually enters the body is going to be based on the caliber of the bullet. It's going to be based on the muzzle velocity of that bullet when it was fired from the gun. It's going to be based on the shape of the round. So a lot of things can happen with that. Now, when most people think of bullets, they actually think of something like this. Now, this is a 3D printed training round. And you think of something that's rounded off on the top. This just happens to be a 9mm training round, and it's rounded all the way to the tip. So this would be like a full metal jacket. Now, this is the most common kind of round that you're going to find out there. The full metal jacket is not a preferred defensive round, just because it can over-penetrate, and it actually might pass through whatever you're shooting and hit something beyond it. Now, that can be the case with any firearm in any round, but with a full metal jacket, it's going to have more penetration than, say, a hollow point. So this is the kind of round that you might find out there for target practice, stuff like that. But if it is fired, it can hit the body and pass straight through, which we're trying to minimize collateral damage. With this whole argument, we're trying to minimize potential lethality and collateral damage. So you don't want a round that's going to over-penetrate. Instead, what you're going to be firing is something like this. This is a jacketed hollow point, all right? 9mm. This is an extraordinarily common round. This is actually the preferred round of most civilians and a lot of law enforcement. The other calibers you're going to find are 10mm, 40 caliber, and 45, as well as 380. But most people that are serious about self-defense and seriously thinking about this use a jacketed hollow point or something like this, where it's going to actually have that tip off on the end. What this will do is it will cause the bullet to mushroom up once it has enough impact on it, and basically the bullet goes from this shape to this shape, and it creates a much denser bullet. It spreads out, mushrooms up, and actually creates a wound cavity and a wound channel that is much larger. So I'm going to try and show you what that'll look like on this paper. So let's say you shoot somebody with a full metal jacket. Again, we're trying to avoid that because those full metal jackets can overpenetrate and you could get collateral damage from that. So let's say you shoot somebody with a full metal jacket and the wound enters right there, solid, thick of the leg. Now you do have a bone in here, so you could have the bullet actually strike the bone and ricochet off the bone or fragment in the body off of that. But let's just say it misses the bone, passes into the leg. You're still going to have a kinetic energy dump, which, for those who understand physics, kinetic energy needs to be displaced when you have an object striking another one. It's called impact. So with a full metal jacket, you might have a wound channel that ends up being relatively small, but it's still going to create a expansion with inside that object. So in this case, in the thigh, there is going to be an expansion where the wound channel opens up just because of that kinetic energy dump. All that energy from that bullet dissipates into the muscle, into the soft tissues, things like that, and it does rip and tear its way through. Now again, this is a full metal jacket, and depending on where it strikes, what it hits, it could hit that bone, like I said, it could ricochet, all that stuff. But in a perfect world, let's just go off of that, where you have the perfect shot and it hits, you could create a wound channel there. Now, small wound channel didn't really do any particular damage. Yeah, it probably hurt like hell, but with the adrenaline and everything else going, the person who was shot will probably just continue to move forward. This has been seen multiple times and proved over and over again. I mean, just look at how many times a soldier has been shot and continued to fight for hours and hours and hours and shot in a more serious place. Just check it out. Soldiers do this stuff. People fight through the pain, they'll get through it, and they will continue to do what they need to do. So, full metal jacket might overpenetrate, doesn't do a ton of damage, and just passes straight through. Doesn't really do much. So, let's go, again, perfect ideal world. So you're using one of these self-defense rounds, alright? And it's going to open up, and it's going to create a wound cavity that is large enough to actually do enough damage to incapacitate the person that you're shooting at. So, again, you strike in the same spot. But this time, because it is not a full metal jacket, this time it is because it is a hollow point, jacketed hollow point, it's going to create a much larger wound cavity. Okay? That kinetic energy dump is much, much more because that bullet has done what it's supposed to do, which is basically mushroom up or open out in some cases. And it creates a much larger wound cavity. Well, look where it strikes, okay? That wound cavity can be as much as 6 inches. 6 inches in diameter, okay? That's a huge, in a 7 to 9 inch, leg, that's a huge cavity. You're more than likely going to damage that artery somewhere along that line if you are struck in the leg. So that artery is damaged. Best case scenario, it's damaged. The person's really hurt. They are bleeding profusely, but the artery has not actually been disconnected. It's just been damaged. More than likely, though, that artery is shredded, and that person is now bleeding from an entrance and an exit wound, and the bullet has completely torn up the artery. They're bleeding profusely, could bleed out pretty quickly in a couple minutes. So the lethality of that shot might be much more than if you hit somebody in the torso or chest or something like that, where you have a rib cage that can protect, you have non-vital organs, where if you get hit in them, you could survive for much, much longer to wait for aid to get to you. Yes, it's going to be painful. Yes, it's going to be a problem. However, you know, the likelihood that you're going to survive is much higher than if that artery gets, you know, severed or something like that, or that leg gets torn up to the point where it's just not repairable within a time span for, you know, first responders to get to you. So that is something to consider with that. And my final point with all this: any bullet fired from any gun can be lethal. I don't care where you place it, what you're shooting at, it doesn't matter. If you're not taking appropriate steps to ensure safety, you can actually have a lethal object fired downrange at any point in time. It's as simple as it is. And with all firearms, that's how it goes. These send bullets out, those bullets are deadly. So if you are going to equip people to use these in self-defense, guess what? Every time they pull the trigger, there is the potential chance of a lethal, lethal issue happening, or a lethal issue of somebody getting killed. Let's be frank. Call it what it is. Every time the trigger is pulled, somebody could get killed. That's just the way it goes. Now, I'd much rather have police officers be equipped with firearms, because the bad guys are equipped with firearms, and you don't want to under-equip your law enforcement mechanism. Same thing with civilians. So, you know, level the playing field, give our officers a chance, and you know what? I said final point before, but this is the final point. Our law enforcement officers work hard, and the vast, vast, vast majority, 99.9% of them, are great people. They get underpaid, they get thrown in a shitty situation, but they are doing it to protect you and to protect their communities. They're good people. Give them the benefit of the doubt on this stuff. They do not want to shoot people. They did not sign up to shoot people. They do not want to do that. If it happens, it happens. But I guarantee you they take the training seriously, and any situation where they have to brandish a firearm, they're taking that very seriously. So give our law enforcement officers the benefit of the doubt, because frankly, they deserve it. They really do. Well, that's the video, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it. I know it's a little bit of a longer one, but I felt like this subject deserved it. This subject deserves a little bit more in-depth analyses. That being said, if you liked it, please make sure to like and subscribe if you already haven't. Hit that notification bell so you know when I'm dropping these videos. I'm trying to grow this channel, trying to get into something that is going to be pretty cool. So, as always, I really appreciate it, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.